What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how to do this mixed media animation effect. Now I know what you're probably thinking, Gus, I don't even have a printer, does it not take a lot of time? Well, it's safe to say we're going to be helping Mother Earth today because we're going to be doing all of those things only in After Effects. Make sure to stick around till the end because I will show you two examples, the first one being more basic and the second one more impressive, more advanced. Now let's get to the video. The first thing we want to do is cut our clip when we want the effect to happen, so I'm going to cut my clip right there when he closes his eyes. Now the first effect we're going to apply is the curves effect. Now you can simply copy my graph. We're going to decrease the shadows right there, and the highlights we're going to decrease them until there. The next effect we're going to drag is invert, and we're going to put the channel to luminance. And then the next effect we're going to apply is halftone, and then we're going to increase the dot frequency till, let's say, 200, and we can put the dots to white. And then we're going to copy those properties and with Command C and Command V on the other clip as well. Now we're going to create a new adjustment layer, and we're going to cut it right there, and we're going to drag the effect posterize time. Basically what posterize time does, it'll compress your clip to the number of frames you want per second. So in our case, to give it that choppy look, we want 8 frames per second. So we're going to put it at 8 frames, and then we can name it posterize. And now we can already import our texture over that. Let's put our texture under the posterize adjustment layer. Let's scale it to something we like. Then we're going to pre-compose that layer. Let's do move all attributes into the new composition and call this texture. Then we're going to animate that texture. So press P to go into position, and then alt click on the stopwatch. Let's write posterize time 8, arrow to the right, semicolon, enter, and then wiggle, and then we're going to animate it 5 times per second and 3000 pixels. So now as you can see, it doesn't work. That's because we need to put a repetile effect, and then what I do usually, I expand it by 6000, then I copy it, and then I just paste it, Command C, Command V, to the other ones. Now that looks cool, but the borders are too sharp, so we're going to blend the borders right there. Let's say 60%. That's all good. And now we should have an animated texture. We're going to change the blending mode to classic difference. And now we have this. And now we can add small adjustments above the texture and add grain. Let's put the intensity at 2 and put the viewing mode to final output. And just like that, here's our final result. And now, just as promised, I'll show you the second example. Let's go. So in that example as well, we want to cut our clip when we want the effect to begin. First thing we want to do is rotoscope our character. In the near future, I'm going to drop a video on how to rotoscope properly and some tips and tricks as well. But for now, here's how. So basically what you want to do is double click on your layer. And we're going to select the Rotobrush tool right there. And now we're going to click on what we want to be inside the mask, just like that. And when you have edges that bleed, you don't want this, you click on Alt with this red thing, you can take it off just like this. Also, I forgot to mention, make sure to put the quality at best and the version 2.0. Then we're gonna do Command with the right arrow to go to the next frame, and you can just go over and look if there are any mistakes in your mask. For now, everything's fine. Now, as you can see, there's something a bit off, so I'm gonna fix it. You get the principle. I will see you guys when I'm done. And when you're done, make sure to freeze the mask. And then you wait. And when we're done, we're going to duplicate that layer, the mask layer, and delete on the layer below the Rotobrush because we want to keep the background for later. We can even call this background. That way we don't get lost. And call this one Roto. Now that this is done, we're going to create a new adjustment layer and do like what we did in the last example, posterize time at 8 frames per second. That way, once again, we get this look. The next thing we want to do on our rotoscope layer is add the effect Sapphire Cartoon Paint. If you don't have the Sapphire suite, there is an effect called Cartoon in After Effects It doesn't look nearly as good, but it still gives it that similar look. Now we're going to tweak our settings to our liking. This is an effect that's very customizable, so I'd suggest just playing around with the settings and you'll probably find something that's cooler than what I find, honestly. I think something like this looks pretty nice. So basically I'll put the edge width to 5, the edge strength to 1.8-ish, the edge threshold to 0.6-ish, and the frequency to 186. Now we can import a texture. We're going to put the texture below our rotoscope layer. And when that's done, we're going to pre-compose that texture. Let's call this texture 2. Now we're going to do just like we did in the first example, P, I'll click on the stopwatch, posterize time, 8, semicolon, wiggle, 5, comma, let's say 2500 this time. And as you can see, we still need to add the Repetal effect, 6000, 6000. And let's blend the borders. There we go. So now we get this. And now as you can see, we already have a crazy result, but we're not just average editors in here. We're going to take it further. Let's go. Now we're going to add a few elements. Let's grab the star tool right there. Make sure nothing is selected. And we're going to make it this big, let's say. Then let's make sure the anchor point is in the middle of the star. That's very important because we're going to animate it. And now we're going to put that background layer to use. Let's duplicate that and put it below the star. Basically what we want to do is put that video of the background in the star. So how we do that is by going to track matte right there and clicking on that and doing shape layer, boom. Now this background layer is in the alpha matte of the star, which I will call star 2. And now let's adjust it so our character's face is in the middle, and we're gonna make sure to put those below the posterize layer. That's very important. Once again, I'm going to call it posterize. And then we're going to import a checkerboard texture to put in that star as well. I put it below the star. Let's make it bigger. That should be fine. And once again, put the track matte to star. Let's put the blending mode to exclusion. And then the layer below, we're going to make it black and white, CC toner. And let's put the midtones to white. And now we're going to animate that very same star. So we're going to grab that background, these, and we're going to pre-compose these 3 and call it star. Cut it right there. And I'll even add some drop shadow on it. And now let's animate it. If you see me sometimes not putting posterize time in the expression, that is because there is already an adjustment layer in which there's the effect posterize time on it. So I'm going to write wiggle 5, 10 pixels. And then we're going to animate the rotation as well. So R for the rotation, Alt click, wiggle 5, let's say 1. And I'm also going to put the star behind the rotoscope. Now we're going to create a silhouette made of newspaper just behind our character. It looks very nice. Watch this. So to prepare for that effect, we're going to duplicate our roto layer. And the layer below, we're going to remove the cartoon paint. Now let's import our texture. I put it behind both of the roto layers. Let's put it to a size that I like. That looks cool. And then once again, I'm going to pre-compose it, call it newspaper. And then let's animate it once again. Wiggle 5, 2500. Repetal effect once again. And when that's done, we're going to do track matte to this layer, roto, and then we're going to increase the scale of this layer, adjust it a bit. And now as you can see, we have this really cool cutout newspaper effect. Now we're just going to create final adjustments to make it more realistic. So now we're going to pre-compose all of our layer except the one before the effect starts and the posterize one. So let's pre-compose this and call this movement. We're going to add a bit of movement to this and also some colors. Let's go to position. I'll click on this and let's make it wiggle. Let's do 5 and then 10 pixels. Don't forget to put the Repetal effect. And we can animate the rotation as well. Wiggle 5, 1. Now let's create a new adjustment layer. Let's call it colors. We're going to add the hue saturation effect. Now, a thing about those mixed media animations is the colors are always a bit washed and not too saturated. So we want to give it a bit of that look. So we're going to decrease the saturation by just a bit. Let's say -35 and increase the lightness by 15. We can also add some grain to that very same layer. Let's do 2, viewing mode, final output. And the last thing we're gonna add is a shake. In my previous video, I showed how to do a shake from scratch. So if you wanna know how to do that, check my previous video and come back after. And now here's our final result. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And if you wanna keep on learning, watch one of these videos right there. And I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.